Partial analyses of the components of farming systems. The results of the resource analysis provide objectively measurable information on the available capacities for the four components of a farming system. This information serves in the next step to conduct the corresponding partial analyses of these individual areas. The key findings of the partial analyses are the respective contributions and effects on total income, total liquidity, and the uncertainty of these contributions and effects. In addition to these economic criteria, household supply plays a crucial role. Household supply is the criterion for the material standard of living of the farming family and a significant driver in their decision-making. The analytical approach for the farm component follows the corresponding calculation methods of agricultural business administration. In the profitability calculations that determine the income contribution, the focus is on annual expenses and revenues. Of course, the same result can also be achieved using the methods of activity-based cost-benefit accounting, after appropriate adjustments. The additional computational effort is particularly worthwhile if subsequent planning calculations are intended. The reference to 1 year allows for the subsequent combination with the periodic results of the other components of a farming system. Liquidity calculations assess the timely availability of cash at the time of upcoming payments. However, in family-run farming systems, the liquidity of the farm is difficult to separate from the overall liquidity. Accordingly, at the level of partial analyses, the identification of demands or contributions from farming activities to cash availability is relevant. The analysis of uncertainty in all three criteria can, in the best case, rely on time series that allow forecasts of the possible range of fluctuations. If such time series are lacking, the only option is to calculate critical thresholds, below which the sustainability of the farming system is jeopardized. Self-consumption of own products is a part of the farm income and is accordingly considered in the partial profitability calculation. However, this perspective does not necessarily do justice to the relevance of self-consumption in a farming system. Aspects of self-consumption go beyond the mere difference between purchase and sales prices. Self-consumption may also include quality considerations or, in certain locations, deficiencies in the security of supply via the markets. Accordingly, physical deliveries from the farm to the household may play a role in the household supply analysis that exceed its market value. Household analysis addresses the coverage of the physical needs of the farming family. Deficits in household supply influence the distribution of resources between farm and household and thus the direction and implementation of agricultural production. Influences on total income and liquidity arise from costs of covering the needs of the farming family. In return, the household can contribute to income and cash availability by producing goods or services for sale. Key dimensions of household supply, though weighted differently across regions, include access to food, water, energy, healthcare and care services, education, and communication. The analysis considers, for each of these dimensions, their quantitative and qualitative availability, as well as the reliability and stability of supply over time. The analysis of paid-off farm employment records the revenues from salaries, wages, fees, and royalties and offsets these revenues against the expenditures incurred in the process. Such expenditures may consist, for example, out of costs for required equipment and transportation. Influences on uncertainty can result from the availability and stability of off-farm employment relationships. Specific influences on household provision can arise, for example, from the absence periods associated with off-farm employment. The analysis of social needs considers the resource expenditure that decision-makers require to satisfy their cultural and social needs. Depending on the local environment, social engagement and social participation are considered expected behavior, and failure to comply with such social rules can, among other things, lead to economic consequences. The willingness to meet such needs or obligations is expressed in the portions of income and liquidity that the farming family uses for memberships, festive occasions, or neighborly assistance. Mutual aid through membership in social groups can reduce uncertainties in all areas of a farming system. The synthesis of the partial analyses elucidates the interdependencies among the components of the farming system and their cumulative effects on the decision-making processes of the farming family. Decision-makers allocate their resources among the four components and receive their respective benefits in return. The contributions from the components to the overall benefits may substitute each other. Farmers' decisions on the distribution of resources between the four components depend on these cumulative benefits.